Hey there, good to see you again. Today we are having once more a viewer request video, this time around from my good friend Robert. And basically, he said that he wanted to use the time that he has right now in order to practice for his cover band with which he normally plays. However, he said, given that 2020 is pretty much a really wasted year, what better song for him to cover than Iron Maiden's Wasted Years, right? So he asked me, because of 2020 being this wasted year, to, show him a little bit how to tackle the solo. Honestly, I have no doubt he can kind of do it by himself, because he's quite a good player, like really good player, better than me in my opinion. But since he wanted me to show him a little bit of my take on this solo, I figured why not revisit the first ever song that made me go into Iron Maiden when I first listened to them. It was exactly this song, Wasted Years, and I fell in love with it since the very beginning with that awesome intro they have, right? So let's go into it. Speaking of the intro of the song itself is actually the ramp up to the solo. So you have exactly the same part as in the beginning of the song. And one thing that I saw a lot of people do online, especially I think I was doing exactly the same crap when I was learning it, how to play many moons and years ago. But to my excuse, back then I was like super noobish. Not that I'm a master now or whatever, but you get the point. So with that famous intro riff, I see a lot of people do kind of like this straightforward type of pattern, and on top of this they just you can get away with it for sure, but if you wanna like play it exactly the way it's being played on the original, you kind of have to sort of listen to that slight rhythmic pattern, because it has like a little bit of a syncopation going on in there. So it's not just straight on and on, like it's more like a on top of which you go I hope you get my point. If I know Robert will, but if you're if you're really at the beginning and you're having a hard time understanding what I'm saying right now, just give it a little bit of time and try to really pay attention to the original, and eventually you will figure it out. It's more of an ear thing. I can't really teach you that thing in one video, but or even probably in 100 videos, but with time you'll get the hang of it. So just try not to go like a sort of tremolo picking. It is a tremolo picking pattern, but it's slightly, kind of like dun 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 instead of dun 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 dun. It's weird to do it with my voice, but you get the point. So going back to the solo, once you have, you can start from whatever, because before the solo they had like quite a bunch of these loops with the right. So they have quite a bunch of these, but right before the solo, as per my cover, if you haven't checked it out, be sure to do so. It has one full loop like this. And then it goes into another one which is almost full, with the exception of the ending, which leads you right into the solo. So that one is, and here you begin with, so what happens here is you're playing on the B string, so but you're also banging against the open E string. So it's not just, but it's more, sorry. Okay, hope you got it. So, right after that comes the second tricky thing. Like the first tricky thing was the pattern that I told you with the tremolo thing. The second tricky thing right now is at the very beginning of the solo, and I've seen this everywhere online being taught in a very simple fashion, which is the incorrect way to do it, and that is the following. People tend to do this. Notice my free-floating right hand. They only do this legato passage right here. And it's wrong because of two main reasons. First of all, if you pay any attention to the audio, you will hear there's an in-between note that's kind of fucking with your brain, but you don't really, you can't really put your finger on it. It's something there that happens in between those notes that I've just shown you, but you can't quite grasp it. And also, if you pay attention to the video track, you'll see that Adrian Smith is actually doing something with his right hand. Also, if you pay attention to the live videos, you will see that the pattern is not so simple. It's not just the left hand, it's also with the right hand. So let's see what he is doing, because this is probably like the biggest misconception about this whole solo. And you'll have it here once, and then you'll have it a second time around higher up the frets, as you will see. So the thing is, if you just start from this very simple pattern, which is right, so again, notice I'm still not using my right hand, right? So if you start from this, and instead of being like super accurate on the B string, if you're a little bit sloppy and you kind of over exaggerate your pull off on the 8th fret of the B string, you will involuntarily sort of create like a micro pull off on the E string, which is resting against the 7th fret. So you will kind of hear this artificial okay, so you could stop right here and just have like a sort of sloppy pull off that kind of imitates this sort of thing going on. But the real way Adrian Smith is playing this is the following. So you have And now it's kind of tricky because it's not, so obviously it's this thing going on top of, okay, so it's not exactly in between the notes, and it's not exactly at the same time with the notes on the B string. So it's not, and it's also not, it's kind of right after it. So it's very asynchronous, if you will. It's right before you touch on the note on the B string. So it's right here. Right, you just kind of have to mess with it and eventually get it right, because it's a sort of awkward rhythm in between your left hand and your right hand, which is probably the reason why most people don't do it. A, because they don't hear it and they kind of skip over, and maybe some of them know that there is something happening and they just don't want to bother complicating it. But this is the real way to do it, and not only will you need it here, but again, you will need it here a bit later when you will have. We'll get there in a minute. So. Just try to mess with it, okay? And you actually do this 5 times, so it's a bit of a prolonged sustained note in the beginning, and then you go full on with the next loops. So, and you can see that each loop ends with 2 hammer-ons on the B string on the 8th fret. And the last time around when you do this, you will have, so it's 2 notes, right? So it's these 2 notes, I mean. And you'll hear a 3rd one, but the 3rd one is actually done by having a very slight dip with your whammy bar. So it's but in case you don't have a whammy bar, and I know Robert mostly plays on his vintage LP, just don't bother and just play an additional note, like, or just tap it. Hammer it if you want to. And for those of you with the whammy bar, it's, and obviously you have a pull up here, and then feel free to play with a sort of combination, like again doing the same slight dips on the bar as you are hammering on and pulling off. You can do it a bit more annoyingly, like I just did right now, or a bit more straightforward, like I did it before that. So it's up to you how much of a shaky feeling you want to give it. But again, if you don't have this, just and here at the very end, when normally you would have just try to do some vibrato, and that's it. Vibrato. So again, right, kind of like an in-between feeling with both of them. So now that you probably got the hang of this, again, at the very end is we're going into a very classical blues lick with just one minor distinction. So normally you're probably used to playing something like, and I'll do it super slow. So trying to look at the camera, and yeah, I'm missing it from time to time, but you get the idea. It's the good old classic lick where you have well, this time around in Iron Maiden, you have pretty much the same thing, with the exception that instead of going instead of here, you actually go right, so you're actually doing and here right, so I hope that's enough repetitions, but I'll do it one more time just to make sure you got the right version and not the in-between versions that I did leading up to this. So it's gonna be with this one, right? So and you will have two quite separate, takes on this one. So you'll have once, then twice, and the second time around you will very rapidly fuse it with so again from the very beginning. Once, twice, and again. This time around you go immediately in it's a bit weird to do it at slow speeds, as you will see when you will be practicing it, because you're kind of losing the momentum and the sustain on the strings, and they kind of start bleeding into one another. But you get the idea. It's so hopefully when you're done with this, you will go into the next thing. So remember when I told you here you have the same thing here. It's just that the fingers are in a very slightly different position, meaning that your index finger is no longer forming this shape, but it's actually going here. So not here, but here. So the analogy would be here you have it like this. So it's as though you would have had it like this, right? So we're going. Okay, so here you will have it 9 times. So here you had it 5 times. Here you'll have it 9 times. And after the 9th repetition, you'll actually have sort of like a mini 10th, which is, and you can either pick it individually, or you can let them blend in, which creates a more pleasing effect, if you ask me. And that's what I did on my cover. It's so again, it's 9 times. I'm not sure if I did it 9 times now, because I was kind of not focusing on this, but either way, it's 9 times, and the 10th time you have that, right? So and pay attention to the muting. It's kind of awkward to mute these, but if you don't mute them and you just do it like super open, it's gonna be a mess. It's, you know, it's not pleasing. It's, yeah. So you sort of want to mute all of the other strings except for the first 2. But also not exaggerate, because then you'll start creating some weird harmonics like I did this very last time. So after you have your go with this, and you do it 9 times, and the 10th time is, or again, if you want to do it individually, it's up to you. You go into an immediate in between lead, which is a very short, so it's open E, and then you hammer on from nowhere on the 12th fret, which is again E, 1 octave higher. And then you start a down sequence. I'll show you immediately how all of these are tying in, because it's a little bit tricky. I can feel you are a bit confused right now. I'll show you in a moment. Just I want to show you the downward sequence first, and then we'll go into the other one. So the downward sequence as a pattern is very simple, but for the fingers themselves, it's a bit tricky. So the pattern is you always have sixths, right? So you're going down the E natural minor scale, just in case you're finding this useful. So at the very end, you'll have instead of 6, you'll have 5 notes, but the last note gets sustained for a duration of 2 notes, which kind of makes it fit into that 6 type of measure. So you have one thing you want to do, unless you're already having no problems doing this, if you find it confusing, one thing you have to pay attention to is begin this pattern on a downstroke. Why? Because after you finish with one set of 6, you're finishing on an upstroke, obviously, because it's even. It's an even number. So the reason why finishing on an upstroke helps you is because you're actually guiding yourself onto the next string with the upstroke, since you're going down. So and if you're having troubles just performing this at high speed, and this is the nastiest fucking thing that I had to do in a long time, to play it up to speed with the original. It kind of took me, I don't know, 400 takes, I have no idea. When you find yourself having difficulties, just try to group it by these sets of 6s. So instead of just doing it in one piece, just try to break it down into however, pay attention to not get used to this breakdown. Otherwise, when you'll start doing it at high speed, you will hear the sort of galloping, like 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and so on. You'll feel it because you'll have it embedded in your hands. You want to stay away from that. You just want to make a mental note to yourself that these are groups of 6s and nothing more. Right now, when I traversed it, I just kind of mentally saw like the breaking point in between all of those four sets, but I did not necessarily make a pause or anything like this. But again, just for training purposes, you can do something like this. Just don't make it too much of a habit. Right, so back to what I wanted to show you. So when you finish with that last, immediately you're going to, and then, and so on. So pay some close attention to the original, look at my cover, and try to, just figure out how you can time this thing in between the and the sequence, right? So it just takes a little bit of ear practice. That's it. And after you finish this this downward sequence, hopefully, because again, it just ate my insides trying to nail this down. Not because it's super difficult, but you'll find it very hard when you change the strings. You'll find it hard not to create additional noise, or here you will see that there's a difference because one time you're using your ring finger and the other time you'll be using your pinky. So, but if you're a blues oriented player and you're not pretty much using your pinky, I think you're safe because you'll have a very symmetrical pattern. It's probably weirdos like me who in general have an advantage of using their pinky always, but in cases like these, it's kind of a downside, I guess, because it's messing up your pattern. But anyway, going into the last bit of the solo, again, huge problems I've seen online. And by the way, for the other things that I've just shown you with people have the tendency to think it's a much more simple it's not. Pay close attention to your ears and the song itself, and also do your homework and take a look at some of the live videos, right? So it's pretty much out there. There's no reason to play completely wrong versions just because that's what some awful tab on the internet told you, or you've seen some videos from people just taking the easy way around it. So do your research, especially the video segments with Iron Maiden playing these things live, or even the official video clip. However, speaking of using the videos as a reference, this very last bit has a sort of a problem. It's a bit of an exception to the rule I just mentioned with doing your homework by watching them. So in the official video, you will see that Adrian Smith is playing it somewhere here, which normally means that it's doing this. He is doing this. So let's forget about the ending at this point, because that will be kind of like that. What I want to talk about is the position of the beginning of this segment right here. So if you watch the video, he kind of goes here, which means he's going into and so on. So if you just look at the video, you would say, well, duh, that's how you have to do it. However, if you pay close attention to the audio track, there are two dead giveaways that this is not what he is playing, and on the actual recording, he did something different. And like I said, it's two clues for that, and one fortifies the other. So the first one is the fact that you'll start hearing a sequence of triplets after the following point. So you have, now you'll hear 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So normally how you would do that would be, and now you begin. And you'll say, well, there's nothing wrong with that, right? What's the problem? Well, first of all, it's very weird to do this sequence of triplets when two of them are up here, but one of them is broken down in between two strings. This is the first reason why I would argue that he is actually playing. Sorry. But you could argue, well, okay, normally probably you do it like this to keep it all consistent, but since the video clearly shows you he's up here, well, it's triplets sound like that. Not really, again, because in my opinion, the second clue kind of solidifies it, and that is the fact that you do not hear the triplets being all alternate picked, which is mandatory when you have it broken down in between the strings. You cannot slide in between them, and you cannot do any sort of crazy legato in between the B and the E string. And it's not like he's sweeping them, because anyway you would hear it. You will hear on the recording how he's sort of like sliding them, which to me is like the proof for the fact that instead of going here and playing the whole sequence, I think he's going here. It makes a lot more sense. Anyway, because I want to end with this ranting of mine. Choose whatever you want to. You can even choose something in between. Like, for example, you can start here, and then you can go into it's up to you, right? On my cover, as you will see, if you haven't checked it already, do so. I did it exactly how I told you. I just went like, sorry. You can slide in from anywhere, basically. Doesn't matter. You can go. And this last bit, is exactly like that. So you have to bend with your flip off finger. So right, so one more time, after you go into the, you now have the sequence of triplets, and the last time you pick, it's actually with a bend. Sorry. Pay attention not to over or under bend, like I just did. So yeah, or you can do it here like I told you, and have the weird, sequence of triplets, and then the ending is pretty much the same. So it's like this. Sorry for the first time. I can almost no longer play today because my hands are a mess. That's why I'm kind of fucking it up, because yesterday I told you I spent like, 1,000 takes trying to get this thing right, because I was either getting one thing good, then I wasn't getting the other thing right, and the vibrato wasn't the way I wanted, and then I had the vibrato down, but I didn't do the whammy exactly the number of times that I wanted it. I did it like 4 times instead of 3 or whatever, and I kept fucking things up, especially with this lick towards the very end, the descending one. Alright, so you have to excuse me, but I'm not too much of a, you know, I don't feel in too much of a great shape today. Not that I ever feel like it. That's my normal excuse, right? So, yeah, but in general, that is the solo, and I will not play it again from the beginning to the end because it's already 40 minutes long. You already have all the parts broken down. So my advice to you is take that original solo, put it down to like half a speed or whatever, and just get the basic motions right in the beginning. Practice each part individually if there's one of them or several of them that give you a hard time. And then when you can sort of have a sort of fluid cohesiveness in between them, and you can pretty much chain them into one big solo regardless of the speed. Once you have it down from top to bottom, then start increasing the speed, and hopefully you'll go up till full speed. But pay attention, some parts are easier, some parts are harder, so you will inevitably have to keep the speed down to the point of the hardest lick that's giving you a hard time. So don't just speed up through the beginning because it's fast, and then when you get to the more complex licks, you just crash and burn. Keep the whole thing at the minimum necessary. Okay, so Robert, I hope this was okay enough for you to get a hang of it for your awesome cover band. I hope you get to play this soon live with the whole COVID shit. And for the rest of you out there, I hope it was useful to you as well. And yeah, just I'm sorry it took me so long because poor Robert asked me for this somewhere early, very early this summer. And here I am a few months later. Super Mr. M to the rescue. Like half a year later or whatever. But I guess it's better late than never. The problem is that I have a huge fucking backlog that I have to go through and groom in order to reach my desired videos. And hopefully by the end of the year, I'll pretty much have it sorted out. Hopefully. Let's see. That's why I increased the upload frequency from once a week to twice a week. Hopefully it will help me get to the bottom of the backlog sooner than 2 years. So yeah. Till next time. See ya. Bye bye.